Doreen Ayebale, an East African of Ugandan origin, and currently pursuing my Masters of Arts in Regional Integration at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. I do commend the East African community for the policies, the education policies that it has put in place to allow for us students to access education across the region without hindrances, without any impediments. And yes, I'm a product and a result of those policies. I remember when I wanted to come do my pursue a master's in regional integration, I looked around my country to find a university where this could be offered, and I could not find any. So looking around the East Africa, I realized this course was offered in Kenya. Yes, for the fact that the East African community has made it easy for us students to access education all around the region, it was easy for me to cross and get myself into the system here, and I started getting my education here, and it's been good, I can say. Yes, I've made so many friends, I have benefited in so many ways, and yes, this really makes me proud of so many things that the East Africa has been able to do, and most importantly, it makes me proud to be an East African.
My name is Sharon Adhiambo. I currently work with Francis Civil Project, an organization that's empowering refugees through education. I'm currently working under the capacity of Human Resource Manager, but previously I have studied in the East African community. I studied in Uganda. I went to high school. I studied at two schools. I studied at Kaboja International School and Hana Mixed Nsanji. That's on Masaka Road. I was able to complete my levels of education, sat for the Uganda Advanced Certificate Education, and qualified to join Makerere University for an undergraduate course. My experience in Uganda is very different from that of Kenya. I was able to select the subjects I felt very comfortable with, and only had to sit for 5 subjects in the long run. 2 of which were languages, and the others were social sciences. And as such, it was very open, because I, for one, was not a strong science student, and so the experience of having the ability to pick one over the others was really good, I could say, because there's art students and there's science students, and the two don't mix. You can either study your sciences or your arts and leave it at that. And so I think that as far as learning goes, it's a very good way of looking at it. What would I say I needed to do in order to study in Uganda? Well, we did not need any form of visas. We did not need any form of passes for students. There was a student pass that could be easily obtained from the immigration, and it meant you just needed a student pass and you could go in and out. No visas were required. I would say that when it came to paying for fees, it's more similar for the high school. I would say it was a bit expensive, because the range was around $1,500 US for a year of study. I would say for the university, however, there was different rates, as you would imagine, for Kenyans and Ugandans. Ugandan nationals had subsidized fees as compared to that of the Kenyan counterparts or people coming from other countries. But all in all, it was not impossible. It was not as ridiculous as any of the public universities in Kenya currently. It was very quality education. I believe Makerere is still ranked among the top universities in Eastern Africa as a whole. So I would say it was a general gain to be able to spend time in a different country, learn different cultures, and experiment on what education on the other side actually looks like.
The one the Eastern community was very good. All the events at 8, they used to do common exams for Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Forget about Rwanda and Burundi. Those were French or something, whatever it is, but the English speaking. So, all level, from 2, from 4, that was East African exam that was done by people all over. The thing was there for a long time until the other day when politics spoiled things. But naturally, Uganda and Kenya were much closer than Tanzania. Tanzania started to drift a bit, but Uganda and Tanzania, so Kenya and Tanzania kept on for a very long time being together. Even today, we still believe that the East African community should hold, and when it holds, should also have the exams like it used to be. We used to do Cambridge, and you know the Cambridge of those days was not marked in East Africa, it was marked in Britain. That was something very, very important. Cambridge certificate those days, but nowadays everybody is doing their own. But still it's the same system of the British.
So what did that mean in terms of finding jobs? It was easy to
that
move
is very easy.
across.
What used to happen is, in this community, there were Kenyans who were working in Uganda, vice versa, Tanzania, vice versa, and you could get a job anywhere. And even when you went to school and you were in Uganda, and you could transfer back to Kenya, you could go to school with your certificate because it's the same thing that you do in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. Yes. And even the jobs, during the Eastern community, most people were working in different areas, and there were so many Ugandans and Tanzanians in Kenya, vice versa. Kenyans also and Ugandans were in Tanzania, and also Tanzanians in Uganda. That was something that was to me very, very important, and we should even go back to it.
Yeah. How about when it comes to payment, school fees? How was it?
We used to use the same currency. There was nothing like Kenya and Tanzania. To the East African currency, shilling. So, if, for instance, I leave this place, and even if I had Kenya shillings, when I go to Uganda, I use the Uganda shilling, Tanzania the same. The value is the same. Yes.
Okay.
The value was the same.
And people were paying for school fees like we do nowadays?
Yes.
You know, now you move from this country, in some places they tell you, here we are charging you as a foreigner, or now in the EAC they have decided that we are not charging people from East African member states as foreigners. They pay the same. If I come to study here, I pay the same as a Kenyan.
We used to have those, and everything was level. If they have gone back to that, the better.
Okay.
Yes, because for us we never looked upon Uganda and Tanzania as foreigners. Most of my school fees, I can tell you, were all paid using Uganda currency or money from Uganda, because that's where my brother-in-law used to work. And even if they were working in Arusha or they worked in Dar es Salaam, the same thing.
Any other experiences you think from your time, something you cherish about the East African community that you think this today's generation is missing out?
They are missing it because one thing is, there were people who were people used to work in places like Arusha, Kampala, Dar es Salaam, Nairobi, Nakuru, even Kisumu. As long as you belong to East African community, you could work anywhere. which means that most of our children, or Kenyan, Uganda, and Tanzania, they could travel to see their relatives in those countries, and after getting passing the exams, they could get a job and work there. That was the Eastern community was very, very important. Yes. Again, discrimination became later on because now Tanzania can think now, why should we employ Kenyans? And they're not employing us. But those days, it's nothing like that. As long as you're qualified, you're given a job. And anybody who speaks Swahili and English, you'll also understand what other person speaks. And that's why I'm proud to be an East African.